Oh, it's done. We own it. It ain't nothing but a word.
And then they help us create the black agenda. Like the black vote, we need a collective black agenda. It took years for us to get the civil rights laws. Then it took years for us to get the voting participation at the level. As we continue to improve the voter registration and participation, then we could continue now to create our black agenda for the ask for the redress of the 400 years.
Right.
Nobody has really studied that in depth.
Right.
And then what better way to go through a black church to see, well, how long you been here?
Mm-hmm.
How long? What impact has all this had on your getting access to money, to service in your congregation, to helping your broader community, to build houses, to house your congregation? So you have a whole nother area of the bringing in the lack of our ability to own homes because of systemic racism. You can help us define that. So we're using words that most people don't understand what they mean.
Right.
So I hope that help you to understand the overview that's missing before we can get down to the specifics, what each one of the organization can bring to the table. But we have to have more discussion about what it is we're talking about. Not minority, we need to get rid of the word. I helped create some legislation in Georgia for the first time when all the legislators came to me to review what they were proposing. And they wanted to do something to get Georgia to spend 30% of all this procurement contract, with 30% go to black businesses. They used the word minority. They were talking about women. So when I looked at it, I said, you need to take out women, because that's a code word for white women. Take out underserved, take out socially disadvantaged, and take out all that minority and just put black. They had a hard time.
Of course.
They had a hard time wanting to do that. So I had to deal with letting them know. It took me 8 years. I met with 30 different countries, African countries. 8 years, because I worked with Ambassador John Ogle. And I asked them what word would let them know we were talking about black people all over the world in the diaspora. Because they want African American, they want minorities, it separates out. And that's how I came up with the word black, because we did the research. And I said, if you use the word black in this legislation, first I knew it would be making history, because we never had a piece of legislation in the Georgia General Assembly that had the word black in it. So I wanted to make history with that, asking me to come in the room. And then I had to convince them. It took me a while to convince them. But because I had done that research with African countries, and then that's how I based creating the first black trade mission, got Ambassador Young to lead it. We went to 3 countries, took 45 businesses. And I helped change policies, international policy. So based upon that, they accepted it, and we were able to put it. And so we're making history. These are the kinds of things I'm talking about with languages, changing the rules, and leveraging. Because it doesn't do any good to just go out here and use these same words.
Come on, sister.
And guess what? Other people, and because the white folks manipulated the word minority, saying white women were minority, and I kept telling those pastors, I said, you have to understand the federal statute. They had nothing to do with it. Even Hispanic is not a race. That's not in the Constitution. None of these words. You see what I'm saying? They are by race in the law. It's not by whether you're male or female. It's by race. So we didn't need a word. We didn't need the word women, because it was already inherent in black. And that's part of what we need to start messaging to get white folks out of being considered by these contractors and these white folks and others trying to dilute access for black people. They were trying to come away, and Elizabeth Dole did that when she was over DOT. And that was only when she put disadvantage, but that was not broad-based. It was only because of DOT. and they just marketed it.
Right.
And once you say it enough times,
Right.
everybody else takes it on. And I kept telling old Middleton every Monday when we meet, they are not talking about us.
Right.
And that's why Reverend McDonough said what is. I didn't say it. He just said, well, you know, she's been dealing with the business league all these years. and that let me know they've been educated to the level of how Booker T. Washington is key in all of this.
Right.
And now we're dealing with black farmers. We're dealing with how we get back to manufacturing and creating industries to build our own houses. Because the Senator Emmanuel Jones on the General Assembly, he has a timber farm. So why can't we manufacture and cut that timber and make our own lumber to build our own houses?
Right.
So I just talked with missionary Brila, who has a 1,000-acre farm in South Georgia, yesterday. And she said, well, we have the plant that used to manufacture the timber, the lumber down here that's sitting idle. So I'm looking at her to help reactivate that lumber thing. She said, I have timber. And you see what I'm saying? I said, we can go over to Alabama and get them to start making bricks again. What was created. You see, we need to be dealing with for real stuff.
Right.
So we can build our own houses. Yeah, we out here just talking about training. We already trained. We trained enough. We overqualified.
And they know it.
Yeah, they do, but we need to know it.
We got to know it.
So we need to stop creating programs talking about we need grants to do that. We just look at it. We need to build houses, and we need to train us in skill sets. I mean, give us opportunity, not training, but to help us transfer knowledge. I say it that way. Because in the flower shop, we have helped create 5 other florists. And indirectly, I gave them access, value, by introducing them into the worldwide system. They didn't have to wait years and years like we did. So I did it in Savannah. I helped Lester's down there build a building from the ground, because we built a freestanding building that underground on Peachtree Street, all glass for the Olympics, and we did the International Flowers Show. Because they were trying to stop us from bringing flowers from other countries at the airport, because they were trying to figure out how black folk knew how to bring all those boxes of flowers from other countries. So I had to get Ambassador Young and the head of Delta and all of them to release our boxes. For white folks are going to put barriers. So when you're talking about putting people in business, you can't just put them in business.
Right.
They have to have access to experience and others to break, so they can walk through the doors.
Yes.
That's not what business is for us. And we keep thinking it's just a matter of doing a business plan, setting up a business account. They won't ever get into business.
Never. Never.
So I'm just saying, we as the pastors have to know that. And the barrier is still going to be there, even though we have the laws. But because we have each other and we have the vote. So that's what I told the legislators on that Zoom meeting with the Concerned Black Clergy after they gave it. I said, that unemployment insurance is a federal program. You don't need to just operate locally thinking you're going to send a letter to Senator Warnock and also to get your relief, because they are legislators. They create the law. They are not governing the law. That's a difference in the implementation. So you have to go to the Secretary of Labor that President Biden put in place, who's over all of the money. And then you go to him just for courtesy, but then you ask for the meeting with the president. So it's his money, and they could bypass the state. I used to do that. But you don't have to just do all of this. Because you could ask for a demonstration.
Thank you.
And if you know how to do that, that's all what an executive order is. You work around, learn how to work around the system. Because that's what we're going to have to do. Because this stuff, these white folks are not going to give up this stuff. They right now, they fighting and file a suit against SBA because Biden put low-income communities in the law. And they're not talking about the 284 billion. They were only talking about the 20 billion that they don't want the low-income community to get. So they have stopped the process with this lawsuit. Can you imagine that? That's what white folks do. And I'm just telling you that we have to help Biden administration know how to work around these white folks and these lawsuits. That's all they have. They have the money, and they just study stuff to hold it up, because they know they're not going to be successful.
Right.
But they'll hold it up to make more of us go out of business. And what we need the black church and others to do is go and help those 400,000 that went out of business come back in the business, so you don't lose all that wealth and that knowledge. And so to me, that's what you guys could be doing.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. It's a done deal.
You could become a voice, not just about money.
Right.
The money is there, but we don't have advocacy.
Yeah.
Economic advocacy.
No, not the word economic, like you said the other day.
Economic advocacy.
Did you hear his message the other day?
No,
economic is not about, because I had that problem with the concern black clergy. I say it's a broad term. So what I'm going to do is help you know where I'm going to be focused, and that's on small business,
Right.
on owners. That's how I had to deal with the concern black clergy. So they wouldn't expect me to come in and represent policy making, the community development. See, that's what economic, the whole thing. Even though I do that through the special purpose local officer sales tax in DeKalb County, when the white folks took all the money north, the black ministers, they created the splash. We never had one for us to self-tax ourselves. So now we have $1 billion in our hands for the next 5 years.
Wow.
And it's coming south. And unincorporated DeKalb.
Wow.
That's how you make the laws work for you and your vote.
But you know, this knowledge here is very powerful. And it's going to only reach a certain level of people because they
No, the messaging, what you need to understand, a little different, because I guess we've been at it long enough here. You take the network TV, because we went and met with the general manager when we had black folks, Channel 2, and said, you're not doing anything for black people in messaging and programming. And that was right before Oprah Winfrey came. He was so glad that he just had signed the contract to bring Oprah. He said, oh yeah, and I said, especially black women, you don't do any programming. That's what I'm telling you, because the FCC controls the network. Right. So you have to ask for equal time. That's what you need to ask for. Anytime you see all this negative stuff on black people, I don't hear anybody asking, saying anything to counter it. We just accept it as fact. We no longer should do that. We should have asked for the opinion to go against that, and that should become a routine.
Right.
That's equal time, like they do. You cannot have one party or one person talk without giving equal time to the other one.
Right.
We need to do that with this black-white stuff. With the minority, because they'll do other minority groups and things, but they don't do black people.
They don't do black people.
That just happened with the anti-Asian hate crime. I'm sorry. They did all kind of media stuff. Went way back to the concentration camp. Did all kind of history stuff when they were working on that. And they got that law passed, and they got $53 million.
Quick,
we hadn't
just
got
like
anything.
That. Just like that.
I'm saying, though, we could get it, too, with the right advocacy. We hadn't leveraged the Congressional Black Caucus. We hadn't leveraged... See, that's part of what, instead of programming, it's the advocacy that's needed.
That's what's needed. Right.
And I heard that in your message.
Bless
That's the only reason I'm talking about
Bless
it.
you. I'm trying to get them to see it, Dr. Bussey.
sorry.
I'm trying to get them to see it. They'll see it.
Well,
They'll see
it's
it.
not so much to get them to see it. Remember I told you I've been dealing with this a long time. It's a matter how you leverage the access through filling the gaps.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
just telling you what the gaps are.
Yes, ma'am.
and you're not stepping on anybody's toes, you're not doing that. You're just, like you did the other day, you really talk generic. But you use the Tulsa model as the model we need to be using.
Yes, ma'am.
So to me, you could take where we are at the crossroads and use that Tulsa model to get that film, that documentary needs to be in every church, it needs to be in every school, it needs to be in every organization. So you come up with the vehicle to get that documentary seen, because the graphics of that will show blacks who we are. But we don't have that document, and everybody don't look at TV, or the, Oprah been showing it on YouTube. But the thing of it is, can you imagine households if we had to wait for them, for the kids to see that instead of just watching movies on TV? That we get that into the household as a must for people, black families to see, all ages.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how that would be a change agent?
Yeah.
Just that one, that documentary.
Yeah.
What is it?